Greetings and welcomes to episode 1 of XEP's Creator Talk, the exclusive Tier 2 and 3 show for patrons of the Xbox Expansion Pass. Today, I am joined by the creator of Double Barrel Gaming and host of a number of gaming podcasts within our gaming community, MrBoomStickXL. Boom, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, Luke? Thanks so much for having me. Super appreciate it. I love the work that you do in the community. The interviews that you do are fantastic.
Thank you.
And adding something like this to your Patreon is incredibly smart. Getting to sit down 30 minutes with some of the biggest and brightest creators. I'm honored that you considered me as one of those and that I'm the first guest. That's pretty awesome. So thank you for that.
Oh, are you kidding me? Thank you for saying yes. I'm stoked to do this because one of the upsides of being in the gaming community of content creation and podcasters is we bump elbows with so many amazing people. The downside is, depending on show formats, you don't get to work with them as much as you would like. So this was a selfish endeavor by me to find a way to get to hang out with more people in our content creation community, while still bringing some fun stuff to Patreon. So that was kind of the jam.
Yeah, well, listen, it's great to be here. Obviously, if everyone doesn't know, I met Luke many years ago, actually right around the pandemic time. He joined the Xbox Factor podcast on Tuesdays,
Mm-hmm.
and he hung out with us there until the world kind of reset itself, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to take a step away and comes back every now and again, when he's off from school.
Mm-hmm.
But it's great to work with you again. And like I said, you've done some really good things in the community. I'm very honored to be here. And we got a really interesting topic to get into today.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot to talk about it. Obviously, we're going to get into the minutia of the conversation regarding value. It's some for others it's really high, for others it's really low. But I can't wait to get into it.
Well, let's get right to it then. Our topic for this week, or this episode, is the value and quality of games that have arrived and are arriving in 2023. The time of this recording, we're early March. We've seen a number of top tier games arrive day one into Game Pass, as well as some of the best games over the last decade making their way to Xbox and into gaming, into our gaming sphere, which is just fantastic. A quick list of just a few top tier games that we've gotten: the Persona games, Personas 3 and 4, Monster Hunter Rise has come to Game Pass, Age of Empires 4 Console Edition, Hi-Fi Rush, Atomic Heart, Wolong, and we're set to get MLB The Show 23, second year in a row for that one, as well as the expansions to Forza Horizon 5 with Rally Adventure, and Halo Infinite Season 3 is on its way. I mean, Boom, I think it would be silly for anyone to deny the quality that we've seen in 2023 of Game Pass.
Look, the Game Pass is a very interesting topic, because when it launched in 2017, it obviously in its infancy, it had, I thought, with great titles. Obviously, being first and foremost first party, being a part of every release, every first party game drops into Game Pass day and date. If you find it to be valuable, you download it. If it's something you've never seen before, kind of like Hi-Fi Rush is a perfect example of, you get a shadow drop, it takes on the industry by storm. And when you don't have an Xbox or you're not part of Xbox Game Pass, you look at it and you're like, wow, I gotta get this service. And you just named just a handful of games that have dropped this year. It's the one thing that you can say about Game Pass is variety.
Mm-hmm.
The
Unrivaled variety at that.
it isn't,
Every
yes,
genre.
yeah. Every genre is represented. What I find to be the most intriguing with Game Pass, besides its value, the value is unlike anything that we can currently see. The world right now isn't really really great place for anyone trying to do things outside of living. Remember, the first thing to go, Luke, in the world when money becomes an issue where you have to really laser focus where your dollars go, is entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like usually the first thing that goes, because entertainment can be expensive, whether that means playing video games or buying video games, going to the movies, going to sporting events, things of that nature. Those always get cut first because you don't need them to live.
Right.
What's amazing about Xbox Game Pass, besides its unrivaled value proposition, is the fact that for your $15 a month, compared to many other services. You are getting so many things to play. It's at a point now where if you have a backlog, it's probably 3 times the amount of a normal person, especially if you play every day, because the one thing that you don't have enough in the world is time. No
Mhm.
one has enough time to keep up with all of these games. And obviously, like we were just saying moments ago, the choice of games that come into there are every genre is represented in a great way. And I think ultimately you really have to just, you have to tip your cap to what they're doing in Xbox to offer this kind of value for that kind of amount of games on a monthly basis. It doesn't stop, Luke, and it's not going to stop anytime soon.
I don't see it slowing down even. They have, for all the talk at this point in the year of, Activision Blizzard, what Sony's bringing to PlayStation Plus, quality,
Hmm.
this, that, or the other, it is surprising to me how little Microsoft publicizes the variety they bring to Game Pass. I mean,
Yeah.
I have no time and very little interest in playing some of the games that have arrived, like Persona 3 and 4, Monster Hunter Rise. Those aren't my style game. Those aren't for me. But to see them arrive into Game Pass means that more people are going to be checking out the service, more people with diverse interests that are different from mine. And then suddenly I'm considering playing something different. I'm willing to check out something that maybe I wasn't before. Hi-Fi Rush is a game that looks amazing. It's a game that I don't know if I would have picked up right away if it was on a store shelf, but
Right.
Game Pass was like, hey, try this. Turns out one of the best games I've ever seen, played, heard, discovered, and more people, over 2 million people now that at this time of recording, have played Hi-Fi Rush. And I can't imagine 2 million people would have gone to a store and said, you know what, that cover, that style, a rhythm game, I don't know, and picked it up. But now more people than ever are checking out new genres. To me, that's the win.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hi-Fi Rush is a perfect example of the diversity that is coming to Xbox, specifically in a way, like for instance, you mentioned Monster Hunter, you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned Persona 3 and 4. Now, I'll be honest with everyone, those are not my games.
Mm-hmm.
Monster Hunter, like the tutorial was
Oh,
it,
that's a
it
lot of
was
reading.
it's a lot, right? Like I get why people like Monster Hunter. Persona is another example of I understand why there are people in the community that really like that kind of game. Remember, these games were were never on Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
They have done a really, really good job of not only bringing them into the service,
Mm-hmm.
but bringing those type of Japanese games that people are asking for. We've heard this. We want JRPGs. We want Japanese action and rhythm type games that we see on Sony. Sony does a really good job of getting those types of games into their console.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are they a part of their service? Usually, no. And this is where we have to check the box
Mm-hmm.
because Microsoft not only is answering the call of the fans who want these types of experiences, but they're doing their double due diligence, if you will, to bring them to the service. And not only are you getting Microsoft first party, not only are you getting some indies, not only are you getting some second party deals, you're getting these third party games that did really well on the PlayStation side and branding. And now those are a part of Xbox. I think that's huge.
It certainly shows Xbox has a willing to reach out to fill their portfolio gaps.
Yep.
And that is to me the most exciting thing. And I know I just mentioned Hi-Fi Rush, but what's so telling about that is that was a Japanese studio in Tango Gameworks that specialized in horror titles, and it was greenlit well before Xbox took over Bethesda. But Xbox said no, keep this coming, and it reminded me of how Bleeding Edge was allowed to come out, how Grounded was allowed to come out, how The Outer Worlds 2 is greenlit. Hey, this isn't the game you guys are known for. Make it anyway. Filling that portfolio, making creators happy, and by default, making a lot of gamers happy. And that to me is the biggest or it's the most telling aspect of what Game Pass brings to gamers. And I've seen them double down in the last 6 months and especially in 2023 of saying, "Hey, high profile stuff, games you want to play, Go check them out. Wolong Fallen Dynasty just came out. I have no problem that thing's on other systems, but
Of course
Game
not.
Pass subscribers got to check it out, see if it was for them, and who knows, maybe that opens a door for them to check out other games on Game Pass or others within that genre. And if that leads somebody to Elden Ring, I'm a happy camper because that game's incredible.
It sure is. Yeah, you know what? I've said this before, and I will continue on to say this. When you talk about, what console is better for you, what platform better suits you, one of the biggest exclusives for Xbox isn't their games. Yes, they are. They are. They have let us down. Obviously, 2022 is a perfect example of that. 2023 is going to be an onslaught of first-party games, but the true exclusive for Xbox isn't their first party, Luke. It is Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
It is they are doing something that no one else is doing. Yes, Nintendo has a service, but it's just older games, right? And we're happy to play some of the older games, and some of them aren't even touched. They're literally just ROMs put onto their service, and we're playing them. Sony, they have a service, and they have a lot of incredible first party games that are a part of their service. That's awesome, but they are reluctant to do anything first party. A perfect example of that, Luke, is MLB The Show 23.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a game that is made by a Sony first party studio. Yes, it is owned and licensed by MLB for sure, but isn't it odd that an Xbox player who may not be into baseball sims, maybe wanted to try one out, can go when it comes out later this month and play it for their subscription fee of $15. And if you're a Sony player, and let's say you're an only Sony player, you're paying over $70 after tax because it's not even in their own top tier service. Pretty interesting stuff there.
It is surprising to me that we've not seen Sony make an effort to counter on that level. The obvious, I think, reasoning for that is they don't need to, right? Their customer base is trained to go purchase,
Yep.
play. And with
Yes.
sports games, oftentimes there's not a lot of market penetration beyond that sports title and perhaps one other. Like, hey, I just play Madden, I just play Call of Duty. That's why I have a console. And so maybe that's the line of thinking. But as interesting as it is, I think having it in Game Pass allows people to check it out that wouldn't have otherwise. And I don't know that Sony neglecting MLB The Show for PlayStation Plus is a good thing, because how many people would try it over on the PlayStation space that
I
wouldn't
agree.
otherwise,
Yeah.
So I mean,
It's perplexing to say the least. Like, this is a first party game. It is the baseball game, right? It's we don't get a lot of baseball sims, right? And it
mhm,
has been the game made by Sony. It was exclusive for a very long time, and it's just one of those things that if you are not into baseball sims and you're like, man, I hear a lot of stuff about it. I watched, a commercial and it looks amazing, and you go and you play it for your subscription fee, and you're like, where have I been? Where has this game been all my life? Right? I mean,
mhm,
that happens more often than not because there is no risk in pressing download.
right,
I think that is the most amazing thing. You go to to your section on your Xbox that says new games, and you're like, wow, I never thought about playing this game. I've never played Age of Empires, right?
mhm,
I've never have, but now I have the ability to say, well, I'm not a PC guy, but I can play the console version by just pressing download, and I did,
mhm.
and it's
And,
it's it's incredible.
and they've also kind of accompanied that download button with the play via cloud button, which is
Yes,
equally cool. And I know on our show proper, Captain Logan often talks about he doesn't want to use the bandwidth to try a game, so he just plays it via cloud. And I think that's an underutilized or under spotlighted ability of Game Pass gamers to be able to do that.
I agree. I played on cloud many games, specifically when I would be sitting down with the Logitech G Cloud. As a matter of
Hmm.
fact, when my wife and I are like watching our Korean dramas, and I was hanging out with her, and I'm like, I feel like playing Vampire Survivors, which
Hmm.
is another game that dropped into Game Pass. I mean, true, it was only $5, but the fact that that game, as small as it was in size and scope, and how
Mhm.
big of a game it actually wound up being. I played that via cloud, and obviously it's not a Twitch shooter, but it requires you to have constant access so you don't get killed. You're just literally just moving around and you're shooting, so you need to be able to do that. And every time I've done that, Luke, zero issues. It works perfectly.
You know, something you said earlier, because you mentioned Vampire Survivors, that came out in 2022, and you mentioned
Yes.
how dismal 2022 was for first party, and I agree with that sentiment. I know where you're coming from. We didn't get any first party new games that lit the world on fire. But if 2022 for a Game Pass player was our worst year and Game Pass was the one exclusive we had, that's a pretty great year. You know,
It
you
was
had
a pretty damn good year. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, we had the expansion to Forza Horizon 5 with Hot Wheels. You had multiple seasons of Sea of Thieves, multiple seasons of Halo Infinite. You had Grounded's 1.0 release. There was
Yes.
a lot of first party love that occurred in Game Pass space that because it wasn't the new shiny, it makes sense that it didn't get the accolades next to competitor stuff like Last of Us or God of War, but still a pretty good year, all things considered, thanks to Game Pass.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, I will say this, you can argue first party one versus the other. Sony had an amazing run in 2022 with first party. I mean, they really had three big bangers. Now, granted, your mileage will vary based on critical and commercial success, and we're not going to get into that, but you cannot argue that if we're going just based on volume of quality things added to a service, you can't look any further than Game Pass in 2022. Yes, it did not. We didn't get Starfield. We didn't get Forza Motorsport. We didn't get what's a vampire
Redfall?
game? Yes,
Redfall?
thank you so much. Redfall. We didn't get Redfall, and that's fine. We're getting it this year, and potentially Hellblade 2 at the end of the year. Wow, what a year for gaming, especially if you're an Xbox gamer, especially if you're an Xbox Game Pass subscriber.
It's funny to me that for such a barren 2022 in terms of the first party new release space, we start off January, February. We've got Age of Empires 4 and Hi Fi Rush. Then we've got Horizon expansion and season 3 of Halo Infinite, season 9 of Sea of Thieves. And then Redfall awaits us, Starfield awaits us,
Hmm.
question mark, maybe that other game, that one more game. And if we didn't get that one more game, I'd still think we were sitting pretty
Oh yeah.
whatever that is, whether it's Hellblade 2 or something else, maybe some similar to Hi-Fi Rush, where perhaps it's Shadow Drop, perhaps not, but just a smaller thing that nobody really knows is out there. Uh,
Hmm.
it's a pretty darn good year for first party already, and knowing what's awaiting us makes it that much more enticing. I am surprised though that we've not seen more deals to purchase Game Pass. Have you noticed Game Pass itself hasn't gone on sale in quite a while? That's been a
It's
unique aspect for me.
You know what it is? Sometimes I do question marketing. I love Xbox, and sometimes I feel like they do some great things, and sometimes I feel like they miss the mark. They do have a grassroots mentality way of doing things. I don't really like that because if you look at you have to compare apples to apples. Sony's marketing is just ridiculously good. It has been for many years.
Oh yeah, did you see
Um,
the most recent uh Forza or Horizon Forbidden West PS Plus trailer? It's
Ye
brilliant. It's
yes.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And I want to see some of that stuff from Microsoft. I don't need it to all be one to one, but yeah, cool.
Yeah, just show up is would be just a good start. I loved, like, for instance, you remember the Titanfall when it first launched on the Xbox One, the advertising where the robot's knocking on the window? I mean, I thought that was brilliant.
Yes.
That's the kind of marketing I wanna see come back. In regards to what you were talking about, though, with Xbox Game Pass not being on sale, one thing that we haven't mentioned this entire episode, and I think it's going to be a game changer. No puns intended, of course. Is the family plan? Like I don't think anyone is really have taken an understanding of how this is going to really make a difference for someone who is in a position where finances are a major conversational piece. Um, $5 a month for up to yourself and four other additional people for 25 bucks. You're getting the exact same thing that the person that's paying $5 next to you is getting. You're not sharing, "Hey, Luke, do me a favor, brother, don't download this game because I want to download it or I want to play it." It's none of
Yep.
that. It's logistically you're getting the exact same service you're getting now, full access to everything, perks and all, for $5. I think we haven't seen any of these quote unquote sales because I think that when that drops, it is going to really change the industry. One of the things that I know that you would appreciate when I say this is, there are such a varied amount of financial stations that people are a part of. Whether
Yep.
you're making six figures or you're only making $30,000 a year,
Yep.
I find it so incredibly important that Microsoft is, as a company, has figured a way to allow for everyone who wants to be a part of gaming, to be a part of that gaming conversation, to now be a part of it for as low as $5 a month. And I don't think they get enough credit for doing something that has, in fact, never been done before in the history of gaming. Gaming can at times be more exclusive than inclusive because the financial barriers for some are not able to be met. This completely moves barriers. I love it. I don't think they get enough credit for it, and I know you certainly appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I don't think I would have thought to bring up the family plan into this conversation, and yet it couldn't be more appropriate because that will bring the Game Pass as a service that will bring those games to more people. And in truth, it very well could sway a number of people that are in tighter financial stations that are having to make a choice between a competitor service. Do we get the family plan of Game Pass or do we buy another Switch game? Do we get Switch Online? Do we get PlayStation Plus Extra? Do
Yep.
we dive in and buy that PlayStation to play God of War, but we have to wait until the other person's done for the next person to play it? Like, that will be a really good talking point if they can both get it out in major markets, because right now it's being tested in a number. So you need to get it to the US, you need to get it to Canada, North America, etc. You also are going to have to educate those who are selling it. And I'm talking about the GameStop clerk that for some reason
Yes.
thinks Hogwarts is a PlayStation exclusive. I'm talking about the guy at Target who's like, Gran Turismo, it's the same game as Forza Horizon. Like, nah, buddy, it's
No.
not. So they're gonna have to find a way to communicate that to their consumer base to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, no, that I agree. I think marketing and messaging are two areas, and I know plenty of people in Microsoft, and so do you. And I don't say this to be insulting, and they know it. They appreciate the honesty. They need to up their game. They need to be better. They need to be more proactive. They can't depend on the grassroots way of doing things through podcasting community like ourselves who talk about it and sell their brand. I mean, listen, I don't want a dime from anybody. I do this because I love the industry and I love the community. But you're right. They need to be better in those two areas to educate. When you educate consumers, you find it much easier to sell them your brand. And I think that there is no better brand right now, especially when you talk about value, than Xbox.
I agree. Value to dollar, I think you get more bang for your buck all around, especially if you're someone like me who is a grazer. I enjoy grazing across a number of games and discovering new stuff.
Pong Soul, you're like a Pong Soul.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. By the way, Pong Soul, I don't think he knows it. He's on the list to join this show at some point as well. But yeah, I love grazing. I like discovering new games, trying new experiences. I don't need every game to be a 30, 40, 50-hour experience. I don't want to
Hmm.
play Elden Ring every 2 seconds. I want those smaller, simple games, those short ones that are fun to explore. And I want more games like Hi-Fi Rush that are fun to me, but I wouldn't have tried out otherwise.
Yeah,
You know?
surprises.
Surprises.
Yeah.
Boom, before we close out, I'm curious if you have any Game Pass favorites or games that you return to, whether they came out more recently or further back, or do you have any Game Pass success stories that you think you would like to point people to trying out?
Let me think. I'm trying to think of what surprises. Look, I don't want to take a cheap way of answering that question. I think that ultimately the one of the biggest surprises for me personally is something like Hi-Fi Rush.
Mhm.
but there is a game that I talked about specifically this morning that came the way of all places, Square Enix,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years ago. Outriders.
Shut up! I've been playing that this morning and nonstop lately.
It is.
That's cool.
Yeah, People Can Fly outdid themselves, I think, personally. This game, we've heard what I mean. Square Enix is they're such a conundrum.
Yeah.
Like they have such success with Outriders. It comes out of nowhere. It drops into Game Pass day and date. It's very Destiny-esque. If you're a Destiny fan, you love it.
Mhm.
I quite enjoyed it. I did not beat it. I got close to the end. I got to get returned to it. That's one of my favorite surprises because we had no idea. And what the biggest surprise is the fact that it came into Xbox Game Pass day and date.
Mhm.
And that's a big game. That's a big Square Enix game, which is why I'm always very triggered by the way Square Enix does their business. But, again, we don't want to go off topic. That's why they're making a change
Mhm.
at leadership, and they need it there. So those two games jump off the page for me personally. Hi-Fi Rush this year, and a couple years ago, Outriders, which is a phenomenal title.
Great answers. Great answers. I love it. I would point people towards some of the games that came out in that 2017 window because a lot of people didn't have Game Pass then, or they were down on Xbox, understandably so, because the Xbox One was so frustrating. Maybe check out State of Decay 2,
Another
Halo
good
Wars
one.
3. Or Halo Wars 2, I should say. Those are two kind of under the profile games that kind of are in there. I know Recore is a favorite of mine. I can't remember if that's still in Game Pass, but I loved Recore.
I would
Um,
imagine it is. It is first party, so I would imagine so.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot that happened in the Xbox One era that is hidden and nestled in to that catalog, but is still well worth people's time. So I would point them there. But good choice with Outriders, man. My community and I have been playing that. It's so funny you bring it up.
Awesome.
I played this morning with Jam Pack Sam, so that's cool. That's
Nice.
cool.
Nice.
Well, Boom, short and sweet was the name of the game here. Would you let people know what you've got in the cooker? I know you host a number of shows. Let them know where to find you
Yeah.
and where they can find your content.
Super easy. If you are a social media person and you want to check me out on Twitter, it's at MrBoomStickXL on Twitter. If you're interested, we are 93 subscribers away from 12K on YouTube. It is Double Barrel Gaming on YouTube. We do 5 shows a week, Monday through Friday, all different panels, all different conversations, but no hate, no toxicity. We don't do any of that for clicks or likes. We do it. We do the. My wife and I are the ones that run the channel here, and she does all the behind the scenes stuff. I do them. I host the shows, and if you're interested in consistency and fun and positive and great conversations, which when we talk about this wonderful world of gaming, check us out. Double Barrel Gaming on YouTube.
Well, there you go, guys. Thank you to all for watching. Thank you for being patrons of XEP, and take care, everybody.
Take care.